Hi, Sagittarius. How are you? All right. If you're new to this space, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back, of course. So, this month has been so mellow, so chill. I find this really beautiful for the collective. And you're the second fire, technically. Although if we include Scorpio and Pisces, we've done 4 fire. And still all really mellow. So this means it's like a small fire, right? You don't need to make a big fire to make something warm. Do you know what I mean? If anything, it's kind of a waste of resources. You don't always need to push yourself, right, to achieve all the time. Some things are just meant to be tended in small bits. And I just saw someone planting, little tiny seeds that grow into this big, huge plant, right? Okay. Before we jump in your cards, there are a few other little messages. Make sure you're giving yourself a little extra time before you begin, before you go to work, before you, even interact with other people. Now, I know for some of you, say you have children, this can be a little bit challenging, but most things work in a schedule, right? So just being aware of that. And again, it's not about pushing yourself exactly, but I feel like there's sort of a shift, a little bit of a tweak or a shift of routine. But this is a really positive thing because, remember that Sagittarius actually rules or is connected to higher knowing, right? Deep forms of knowing, like education, etc. And is also very closely connected to God, which actually most people see you as religion, and then Pisces as spirituality. Although to me, these are the same thing, right? It's a spiritual, and actually to me, in ways of a religious context, it's interesting. I guess we're having a little chat. If someone's like, oh, that's my religion, it means that there's a pattern to one's day, right? There's a purpose. It's not all, for instance, purely physical things. Some of those things are, they're still structured within time, or this physical reality. But it's taking space to connect to something emotional, right? Mental, spiritual, this internal space, right? Which helps your connection more to your faith. And with the South Node going through your sign, as they most said, this could be where a lot of you had a test of your faith, or maybe the world at large, right? You're ruled by Jupiter. It's like the world at large might have been sort of like, again, testing your faith. This could be your nearby environment, and then, of course, that which is wider than you. Now, I see from you here, I feel like you're passing the test, right? And I feel like you're looking forward to the future. This is a good thing, right? Your optimism, Sagittarius, is very optimistic. And I guess since I'm recording this for February, Aquarius is very outward, right? It's a very wide energy also. It's past Jupiter, right? It's past Saturn. And then it's on the other edge of Saturn. So you knowing your own limitations, whether this is energetically, financially, stubbornly, I heard, what have you. Learning how to slow down too, because to me, Sagittarius energy is never lazy. It's never lazy. You're a doer, right? You're a doer. You do all the time. It's almost impossible. We talked about this in your yearly reading. I'll include that just because I feel like that would be helpful in case some of you missed it too. Just a second. Right, sometimes it's just about, there's lots to do, yes, but sometimes it's just about being also, right? And again, that's kind of that prayer space or that just that quiet time to be like, Zen master, right? Okay. I love you. Thank you for that conversation. That was good that's good conversation. All right, Sagittarius. Let's open up this one. That was very gentle. Okay. Well, this is telling me a whole story. Just a second. You know, sometimes we walk down the same path over and over and over again, right? Without really thinking about it. We end up making, you know, like a little indentation of where we go. And where we go a lot, right? It's sort of like, I see a little, it's embedded. You know, kind of like a riverbed, right? It makes its own, that's where one rests, I guess, is in these little spaces. Now, while you're going along, you're always looking for something else, you know, something that you want, that you feel like you don't have, then I guess one will have a really hard time being able to just be in where you are, right? And what's cool is once you're okay with where you are and you know that this is where you're going and how you're going is safe, right? It's not dangerous, right? It's not, and I feel like this has to do with your habits too, right? Or day-to-day kind of things, because this is part of, again, I'm seeing like the loop of what you do. I feel like you're going to find a gift, but you have to be patient in yourself, and you also have to be patient with others. It could be just one other, whoever is with you upon the path. There's something about that, like while you're around it, just being patient, right? Not trying to make something do what you want it to do exactly, but just having it be, right? Because that's part of how you're going to find it, is there's other parts or other things that are upon the path that sort of stop. You know, and say you're like, da, 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 you know, I just saw someone speed walking. It was just like the legs are going slow, but the arms are really going fast, right? Gemini, and that's Sagittarius. So, okay. Well, I guess that's what happens. Is that what happens with you when you finally slow down sort of physically? You get into your head, and then if that's the case, it can become very emotional, right? And that can be a little bit scary. It's like testing of your optimism. Interesting reading. Let's see, just a second. Yes. Who's the fire? Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. Who are these folks in your life? Who had dark eyes? Who has blue eyes? Like light eyes, dark eyes? Who's the most creative friend that you have? Or maybe there's like you and two other friends. Like it's almost like a trifecta. There's three of something. And I want you to look at where and how those people create and how it is the same as you. I also see finding the inspiration in something too, right? Like, oh, my friend's really good at this, you know, something like that. Or I just saw someone saying, oh, I'm so happy that they taught like someone thanking another person for teaching them something, right? Although it'd been kind of after the fact. Because part of teaching someone something is where even when the teacher is not there, then the student feels confident in doing it themselves on their own, right? Even if they tweak it a little bit of how it's gone about, like the structure is there, so they can now, the finite game is there, so now that they can play within it, right? Does this make sense? Very cool reading, Sagittarius. Let's see. Oh, hippopotamus. He's always really strong. Not yet. Okay, we won't open that. I guess we're meant to go in order. Let me read this card for you, just a second. I haven't seen it before. Oh, that was another thing, is what books are you referencing right now? Like, what books are you interacting with or reading for yourself or for your children, what have you? Because learning, remember, oh, Scorpio's so strong for you too. They would give you a really beautiful message if you want to go there. Yes. But you can learn via playing too, right? That's if you think about how children learn, that's how they learn as well. Oh, interesting. Well, I saw, we'll talk about it in a second, but I saw this sentence. It says, they can make things more convenient, comfortable, and efficient. Any creation, even something practical like a house, can be an artistic expression. Amen. I feel the same. And as such, adds to the beauty and joy of life. Having a place to call home brings a sense of safety, stability, and belonging. What are your magic, what are your sacred tools, right? Like, for instance, how priests have those where they, in Buddhist, monks do this, well, I guess monks across the board do this, where it's like the incense burners, right? Like on the chain. Those are so beautiful to me. Just there's something about the flow of that that's really nice, right? The in and out of it, towards you and then from you and within and without. Now, of course, there's other things. Like, for instance, this feather. I found this feather. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. You had so many little messages. I'm glad that I gave myself the time to not worry about whether, like, I would remember, because I already had the major things written down. The other parts were just sort of extra creative. But 4 years ago, what's that, 2018? Maybe this time of year, or you want to just think over that year, but I feel like now is kind of relevant. But anything really is a sacred object. You know, think about a broom. You know, it seems practical, but it's very helpful. I also see that, oh, this is interesting. Any markings on your body, too, especially like natural, like say it's like a mole or like a beauty mark or even a scar, I guess. These are indicators or like protectors, right? And I suppose tattoos could kind of do that too. You don't have to get them. I'm not suggesting them by any means. You decide what you want to do with your body, right? It's a very good lesson. But you can also draw on yourself too. You know, if you think about a lot of tribes, they would do like kind of tattoos, but not necessarily permanent. It would be different tattoos for different occasions, right? Ooh, yes, yes. Cool. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, let's see what's in the heart of the matter. I need to open up more to see what's going on around this, because I don't want to judge something on, like, yeah, that's different. Okay. Right, it's like we just corrected ourselves right there. Don't jump to conclusions, you know what I mean? You know, when you take on more than you can chew, one can always handle it, but you're going to need help. You know what I'm saying? But if one really addresses a situation prior, like has a plan about it, is sort of slow and like patient about it, right? Understands like something about the foundation of something, then one would not end up taking on more than what they can handle as an individual, because they would already realize that choosing that, for instance, would need help. So not that you couldn't start things yourself, but that when I see the pure action was to be taken, like the actual achievement of the goal, if you will, in a physical way happens. And I see this about being the gift too, that this is now like a group effort, and it feels really awesome, so that there isn't ever that moment where you're like, oh fuck, like what, oh shit, like help, or something like this. When is the last time you ever, like, you yelled for help too, right? Because that's probably rare for you, right? Probably most of the fire signs, it's rare to yell for help. Maybe even just humans in general, but let's talk about you, right? It's okay to do that. It's how you get to know yourself. When were you scared when you were a child and you didn't yell for help? How did your father bite off more than he could chew? You could also look at the men in your life right now. How do they, and if you're a man too, but, well, you can apply this to you. You are masculine energy. But let's go in order. How did your father bite off more than he could chew? I see extended family, your spouses or partners too. And how is that, my child, that reflects back at you? Right? Because the parent teaches the child. Whatever a child is around is what they learn, right? Whatever an adult then later is around is what they learn. But we're always starting off on the foot that we were taught. Right now, again, that's why it's interesting, since you rule learning. A big part, from my perspective anyhow, a big part of learning, and especially to become more faithful in oneself, like an appropriate kind of confidence, this kind of thing, there's unlearning that needs to be done, right? We have to unlearn fear or unlearn habits or realize where things are rutted or need to grow. Like what the root of it really is. You know what I mean? Okay. I feel like Pisces, the other Jupiter, you and them are both ruled by Jupiter, so in the same pot, if you will. I believe they also received these. Aries had an energy of this too, like I mentioned, but this is it's really beautiful actually. This is the etchings of souls, which is the sort of the ace, and then this child here is the environment of souls. And so you go from the 1 to the 10. But it's the 1 is actually an elder, and the 10, the environment is a child. The soul in and of itself is an adult. So the soul is old. But it's almost like oh, I see what I'm supposed to do. I just received this beautiful book. It's by Robert Hand. It's called Planets in Youth. There's a few different versions, but I guess I'm supposed to read you out of this just a second. It's patterns of early development from an astrological sense. Really beautiful stuff. Okay, let's read this one. This is particularly about a sun-moon polarity. So say you were born on a full moon. Right, sun in one house, one sign, and the moon in the opposite, right? Cancer, Capricorn, Sagittarius, etc. Or either way, just this represents this polarity. But it says here, if both the sun and the moon are strong and function in a compatible manner, the child can face every problem in life with a sense of wholeness. He won't have the sensation that there are two persons struggling for the mastery of oneself. He believes that his intentions are right and appropriate, both intellectually and emotionally. His intuition and feelings provide reliable clues on which to act, knowing that he will be reasonably correct. Similarly, the child's conscious mind is in tune with his emotional needs and can satisfy them without violating its integrity. Children who have a strong and compatible sun and moon also have little or no conflict making friends. And as adults, they get along very easily with the opposite sex, unless there is some difficulty with Mars or Venus, which is also important in this regard. The strongest thing I saw here was can face every problem in life with a sense of wholeness. When the two parts of you, right, your child, your inner child, your adult, your scared self, your loving self, things like this, when those two persons or those two energies, if you will, are not struggling so much in the mastery of oneself, right? Which helps a lot with faith, when one has faith, right? Because if we're talking about this inner child or the emotional space or internally, this is sort of invisible, right? You know, not all things are literal. They can be taken all things can be taken metaphorically. Some things are literal, but not all things are meant to be taken literal. Right? But everyone has the perspective to choose what they want to do with that. Just a minute. Okay, so in relation to walking the path, right? It's almost like the way you go to work, maybe you take a different road. Like, what are your different avenues to get from point A to point B? You know, and let's use some basic examples, like here to your job, here to the grocery store, here to your friend's house. Like, what are the different ways you want to test yourself a little bit? Because you may come across, because these other paths, I feel like for most of you, you've been down also. It's not like these are unknown completely. It's just finding different means so that things don't become, like I saw an old field, like kind of rutted road. And someone talked about this before, where there was like a horse out to pasture. Cancer, I think, talked about this, where there was like sort of forging a new path in a kind of way. I guess this could also be where you, at this time, are also sort of walking or choosing to walk, which I guess has a lot to do with your choices, in a different way than most people, or than maybe this is speaking of something that's old-fashioned. But I feel like there are other things that are repetitive that you know you need to shift. And I mean, for some of you, this could be as basic as, again, how you start your day, or before you start different parts of your day. You know what I mean? Okay. Oh, the fire's finally going. Good. I stuffed it last night before I went to bed. And this morning there was a little tiny bit of coals, and so I just added a little extra wood and left it alone. I wasn't worried about it, right? And now it's going. Good. Right, I didn't need to pour a bunch of gasoline on it to like make it big and huge again. Just like allow it to be. Let's read this one up here. It reminds me of Scorpio energy, but I think it's the Hermit. It is. Okay. This is important because I guess this is next to the etching of souls, right? The beginning of, it's like when the soul is born. And then all the hard parts are like bad parts of being a human. Do you know what I mean? Like this really, really, really immensely, infinitely pure place. And then where there's no fear, right? Think about a baby in a womb. We can swim, we can breathe underwater for 9 months. And then when we come out of the womb, we can't breathe underwater and we don't know how to swim. Do you know what I mean? And we're always crying. Like before, we're just like, it's again, this extension here. So this card is the Hermit, although it reminds me of the Death card a little bit. So I guess this is also a change in the way that you're thinking. That's also very important. And you can look at your second house if you want to. Like first, second house would be very helpful. So it says, the Hermit moves away from society, preferring his own company. When one chooses isolation, it can be very easy for some to become lost in one's own mind. Reality can become abstracted. However, sometimes it is important to play the game of the Hermit. Other people's voices can be loud and insistent, overpowering their own internal voice. If we have to make an important decision and cannot hear ourselves think over the distractions of the world, the chatter of others, then we have to steal away. One must remove themselves from others for a time, shutting out all other distractions. Then in the silence and solitude, sometimes in fasting and prayer, we can hear our own voice and see our way clearly. And I guess that's what I saw in the beginning too, is like, really, even if it's just, I mean, it doesn't seem long, but like 10 seconds even of just, like, let's count to 10 Mississippi invisibly. Okay. Feels different, right? And it's almost like pushing. This is where it's not, well, pushing may not be the right word, but I feel like this is why a lot of people don't pray or what they consider meditate, which to me is just prayer. It's just being, I mean, you can meditate while you're sweeping the floor or doing the dishes, but to truly just be still and quiet, where you're not necessarily like doing it to ask for something or to try to fix something or what have you. It's just to be. This will help you to figure out whether your opinions or how you feel also, even your fear, right? Is that your own? Is that someone else's? Because this is also how you switch your thinking. I'll give you an example. I took a few silent days, and I didn't actually realize till afterward that they were the days that the Islamic people fast, were like these 3 particular days, and I kept the fire stoked those 3 days. I didn't let it go out for some reason. And I was just like, I wanted to like kind of fast. And even when I tried to eat something, my body was like, ugh, that doesn't taste good. Like it was like I didn't need it. And I took some silent space. And when I did, I realized that I had 2 particular things that kept jumping into my brain. And at first I tried to be like, I don't want to think about that, like sort of push it out. But then it kept coming. So I was just like, all right, well, why is this popping in like this? What is it within myself that needs to be addressed or needs to be sort of filtered if it doesn't completely have to do with me, because we all are connected, right? And what's really nice is it helped me realize a fear that I had subconsciously in relation to wider things. And then it also helped me to realize where I had a small judgment in relation to that which was outside of me, and kind of put myself in check, right? So this is also why being quiet is good. You might, it helps you to figure out. I heard the homework of yesteryear. Okay. Just a second. What is this? Just a sec. Okay. All right, let's go. It says, you are a rather excitable person, Sagittarius. Always looking for ways to bring excitement and change into your life, although you may not be aware that you are doing this. Sometimes the excitement may come from other people who seem to disrupt your life. Often this aspect indicates that at some time when you were quite young, your home life was upset in a way that made you feel unable to depend on others for emotional support. So you have decided to not depend emotionally on anyone and to be free in as many other ways as possible. You don't want to be restricted, and you will rebel against anyone who tries to confine you. You have a strong need to have experiences. They're very unusual. So you're attracted to anything new and different. I also see this where it could be what's different from what is popular in society now. It says you will even do something just to shock the stuffy people around you. Or you may be fairly conventional yourself, but attract friends who are often offbeat. It says when you're upset, you tend to act without thinking. So try not to do anything at all while you're in that mood. Wait until you cool off and can see the situation clearly, right? Which emphasizes this hermit and the next to the pure soul. Okay, we'll take it. Remember, action teaches more in certain ways, what someone does, right? Actions speak louder than words. I love you, Sagittarius. I really do. Thank you for this soul food. Thank you for being able to laugh at yourself. Thank you for not being afraid to change, not being afraid to be different, not being afraid to even take that time to be quiet, you know. It's like submitting to the silence, you know, and maybe that's what makes it hard sometimes, is it feels forced, you know. You're like, I don't have to do this. And it's like, yeah, in certain things you don't, you're right. But in ways of just being, right? One with nature, or like one with you and just your body as a human being, like be good with that, right? I heard, when's the last time you looked yourself in the mirror nude, right? When's the last time you cooked in the nude? Although you should probably have an apron on or something just to protect yourself, right? I guess that's not very smart to cook in the nude, exactly. I guess it depends what you're cooking, right? Thanks. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have the happiest now. Thank you for the mellow energy, for the collective, really beautiful. And I'll talk to you next time. Okay? Take care of yourselves. Peace out.